Do you want to be able to start seeing with your ears and understand your surroundings 1,000 times better? Well, you're in the right place. To begin our tests, we're gonna make a huge straight platform to avoid any distortion from the terrain. Fun fact, while measuring our starting point, we noticed that our POVs are completely different footing to the real one. As you can see on my footage, my left foot is right behind the stone line. As in, let's call him Professor Aura for this episode's POV, I'm way past it. To understand our surroundings a bit better, we need to take some type of measurement. With the following test involving two different guns so that we could conclude that barrel length doesn't change the length of the combat log, we were able to conclude that one stone foundation is equal to 3 meters, which was incredibly helpful because one stone foundation has 3 different stone squares, each equal to 1 meter. Now that we had our first point of reference, we decided to test out how long you can hear footsteps. First, of course, testing with boots. After extensive testing and setting our audio settings to the max, we were able to find out the render distance of the footsteps with boots was equal to 19 squares, which equals to 56 meters. Past the 57th square, there was no audio cue. So our next line of thought was, barefoot has definitely have to be smaller radius, right? Well, it turns out that no, it's just maybe lower in decibels, but still the same range.
Yeah, it was like right here. You couldn't hear me. So basically, you hear me here on these, but these you can't.
And while testing how far we could hear tools, we came to the conclusion that 59 meters is the maximum range for any tool. This being every time a tool interacts with an entity. Could walls prevent audio distance, or at least reduce it in any way? And no, it does muffle the sound, but the distance remains the same.
This one to here. You can hear this one, but you can't hear this one.
In case something became way too complicated to measure with our scale, we tried figuring out a larger scale, that said the map squares. And using our combat log, we were able to find out that the length of a map square is about 150 meters. This line of measurement will come in really handy for some other tests later. Trying to find out the distance of gun audio, we came out with a new point of reference, and that is the point in which guns muffle. Past the 35 square foundations or 105 meters, guns develop a completely distinct muffle sound. But still, we yet hadn't found an end to gun sound, so we had to extend our measuring line for these tests, and that's when we found even 2 different new points of reference. One of them being player rendering in, and the other one, surprisingly enough being different, being player rendering out. At about 286 meters, players will render in, but they won't render out until the 300 meter mark. And so will every entity that they shoot. This means that past the 300 meter mark, there is no gun audio.
Yep, you just popped up. Yep.
Here's a brief comparison that also allowed us to notice how there's an actual original sound of the gun that starts to blend until the muffling point, and from the muffling point and onwards, it's the same noise until render distance of the player is lost. I know that might have been hard to follow, but let's just call it step 1, 2, and 3. You'll be able to notice it very clearly on this example of every single weapon and their different muffled sounds. You'll notice that we'll have what you call the cannon sound within the 19 stone foundation mark, and from then onwards it just tries to blend close to 50-50 with the muffling sound from the 105 meter mark, aka the 39 square foundation mark.
Okay. You can't hear it until I render.
But when trying this with bows, crossbows, and combo bows, we came with the results that past the 19 square foundation mark, there is no audio cues. Instead, the muffled sound is very close to the 18 square mark and starts to blend until the 19th until it fully fades. But this brought even another question. Do you make sound when you draw weapons? And if so, how far does this extend to? Well, we started up with a bow and we came to the results of 6 meters, aka 6 squares or 2 stone foundations. Outside of that range, there is no audio cues, so curious, we tested the combo bow and we expected similar results, but
I'm at the 19th square.
the combo bow as well extends to the 19 square mark. We tested this with every gun, but the combo bow was the only exception. Even the most expected ones like the pump or the AK where you know, there's an actual audio cue. Still, none of those could break the 6 meter mark. And when we consider the pumping animation into the queue, we also started considering reloading. Outside of the 6 meter mark, there's no audible reloading sound cues. Our next experiment led us to find out that the maximum render distance for audio and silencer only goes to within the 13 square foundation, which is equal to within the 39 meter mark. So, yep, silencers, 40 meters, not audible. And on the same category, we have emotes. Actually, clapping, to be specific, is as audible as silencers. And so is eating and drinking. Remember, this is not about decibels, this is about whether the sound renders or not, and in fact it does. But again, only within the silencer range, which is within the 40 meters.
Silencer.
Next up, we're gonna test out code locks and garage doors as well, which to me sounded really fair because I'm always scared to open up the TC or a door and I wonder who could hear it and how far does he really need to be to hear it. And the answer is silencers. Yes, within the 39 meter line, you'll be able to see someone just putting up some more resources into that tool cupboard. And this one still haunts me to this day. The muffle sound reference is the same one for the maximum render audio distance for trees falling. That means that somebody can hear you chopping down a tree from within 105 meters. That is 2/3 of a whole quadrant. Next up, we were curious to find out how audible throwing animations are. And we came to the result that every single throwing animation has a 19 square foundation radius, which, as we said before, amounts to 56 meters. It's the same for footsteps, both barefoot and with boots. Last but not least, we have
Let me start up.
minicopters and scrappies, which are audible within the 72 square foundations or 215 meters.
You can?
And with the next experiment, we were able to conclude that all explosions have an almost unlimited exploding visual in terms of rendering, but the audio might not queue. So outside the 300 square foundation mark, or 900 meters, the beacon is not audible, but visible. Within that radius, it is audible.
No, not yet.
And lastly, within 425 square foundation, or 1275 meters,
So you can hear C4 on 10, but not 11.
satchels, C4, and rockets are audible. Past that mark, they're no longer audible, but they're still visible.
But you didn't hear it. Yeah, you can't see it.
And
Yeah,
that is all the information that you'll need and hopefully find useful to plan out better your strategies to countering raids and even sneak approaches. I hope that you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, have a good rust, friends.
Part of me just wishes I could be a different kind of sinner. When bullets meet the opposition, man, no one's a winner. Fucking up, I swear to God that I'll change it.